get our local elected officials to be more accountable and transparent. I'm not going to do a whole lot of speaking tonight because I want to make sure that the guys that are the experts, and there's some really good guys in here with a lot of wisdom and knowledge, I want to make sure they get a chance to speak. So I'm just going to, with further ado, I'm just going to go ahead and let Gary get started here.
Leave me out of that, will you?
Well, first I'd like to thank everybody here. It's great that everybody is showing up and shows your concern. My name is Gary Darby, and this isn't working. There you go. Okay. I have a YouTube channel called Judge Darby. I am a common law judge. Facebook profile is Gary Darby. I have my cards over here if you'd like to grab one. It has my email and phone, so you can contact me. Over here we have some books, Consent of the Governed. If you want to learn about the true nature of the grand jury, the common law grand jury, how it was meant to be, that is the Bible. I'm from Josephine County. I'm an Oregonian. I was originally born in Yakima, and my family has been 40 years in outside of Grants Pass. So I am a common law land jurisdiction judge. Well, what the heck is that? Okay. Let me explain. We have two jurisdictions. We have original jurisdiction, which is land jurisdiction. We have what is called a statutory or Admiralty jurisdiction, which is what you find down at this criminal courthouse. Those judges that will not allow the Constitution in their court, if they can get away with it, they are Admiralty or law of the sea. They don't belong on the land. Land jurisdiction is totally different from Admiralty. And I don't want to get into a big education about that. I will be putting out a video on that to explain the differences. So you know something isn't right, otherwise you wouldn't be here. You're searching for something? Answers. What do? You've heard all kinds of theories. They're everywhere. Everybody has a theory. Some work, sometimes. But the big problem is they don't work enough. They're not protecting you. The majority of people only know what they've been taught by the government schools, the news, the television programs, and stuff that we've been able to pick up otherwise. But the problem is, most of us have never learned the Constitution. We've never learned what it is to have freedom because we've never really had freedom. Freedom's actually scary. It means self-responsibility. It means we have to be responsible and take actions ourselves. We don't have a government telling us what to do. They don't control our daily lives. All of these government schools, the news, television programs, they all reinforce the same rhetoric. And what's that? The government controls all. Everyone here has government control. A marriage license, government control. A driver's license, government control. A professional license, government control. You go to work, you have to pay part of your money, your income, to the government, your homage. They control everything. They control your children. They can take your children away without notice because they own your children. They own your children because of your license. Your marriage license is a contract with the government, placing the government in superior position. All these contracts. Your work, your life, your family, what you believe, how you drive. They take your hard-earned income and give it to illegals who don't contribute, and they don't properly teach your children. Common Core. How many supports Common Core? Not one person here. And for obvious reasons. They're not teaching the children. They're dumbing them down. In essence, you serve the government. The government does not serve you. Who created the government? We did. We the people. Yet we are the servants. We have been trained to believe, to be in fear, that if we do not serve the government, they will come after us and we will pay the price. How many people are tired of that? Okay, just about everybody. That goes to say, I can understand. I am too. Well, I started this journey about 30 years ago. And you serve the government, and then the next generation. Your parents serve the government. Their parents serve the government. Your children and their children. What do we have left? Look at the trend that's going. Every year, more rights, more liberties are lost. We're getting into a situation where I wouldn't even call it communistic, because I've been to Russia. They have more freedom than we have. Seriously, they do. Day by day, you can see that the system is broken. We've been taught to be helpless, that we can do nothing, that if you want to change something, go vote. Well, how's that helped? Not much. So you have two choices. Do nothing and hope it all works out. Well, how's that working out so far? How many people are sitting around doing nothing? They're voting, but they don't do anything beyond that. Are they studying the Magna Carta? Do they study the Constitution? Do they... Oh, congratulations. They're the Articles of Confederation, all the founding documents. They're our basis of our country that has been stolen from us. But the government continues to come in and lock up or take away the wealth of your county. How much of this county is controlled by the BLM? A substantial amount. The Forestry Service, they come in and say what you can and can't do.
52%.
52%.
That's combined.
Combined.
Yeah, combined between the two.
And next year, and the year after that, until they have 100%. In Nevada, I believe it's 90-something%. But the BLM is unconstitutional. The Forestry Service is unconstitutional. They have no jurisdiction here, and you have the ability of telling them to go away. And that's what I'll get into. But you need to take back the wealth of your county. You need to take back control of your county from the corporate government. Yes, the corporate government. I don't know how many people here understand. All government, top to bottom, county, city, everything is corporations. They are listed in the Duns and Bradstreet journals. All you have to do is look it up on the computer. You'll find their corporate number. Your courthouse, the judicial system, for-profit corporations. It's not for justice, it's for profit. And you try, most people don't even know. They continue to allow every aspect of their life, their family, to be controlled by the government. It'll only get worse. Have you ever seen in your life, of anybody here, any rights bestowed, returned, supported, the return of somebody's property, the return of anything from the government? No, they take. They take, they take, they take. And it will only get worse. A lot of people are subsidized. A lot of farmers, ranchers, they're subsidized. At this point, the subsidies are going to run out. What are you going to do then? You're stuck. You're dependent on the government instead of what you should be, yourself. What happens when the economy tanks? And it's going to tank. It's headed that way. Unemployment. The United States went bankrupt last year. They're doing everything they can to scrape up money. That's why they are going after property. That's why they're going after minerals, resources, everything they can to steal it, steal the wealth from America for themselves. So what do? You try to go turn your county or city into a tourist place. A lot of people are trying to do that. The problem is there's fewer and fewer tourists. They're taking away so much money, people don't have the ability to be tourists. So where are you going to get the money for tourism? Maybe short term. Another problem is there's too much competition for the limited tourist dollar. What is going to bring them here as opposed to Disneyland, California, or somewhere else? Grand Canyon, Grand Tetons. Becoming a tourist county also pushes the prices of food and services excessively higher. So you are creating your own inflation. Cost of living can increase as much as 400%. 400%. Can your house budget handle even a 100% increase? Even a 50% increase? What about your kids? They grow up. What are they going to do? No jobs. Maybe working at McDonald's, but how many McDonald's are around to work at? The current actual estimated unemployment in the United States is 23%. Not this bogus number the government puts out, but the actual estimated number of people unemployed, people who are no longer working, no longer looking. They've given up. Or they are engineers working at McDonald's, trying to compete with the kids. The big counties control your county because they control the vote. How many people get really frustrated because Multnomah County, whatever they vote on, you get it. You get it. Pretty much everybody. In Josephine County, it ticks us off to no end. Because we have, what, 2 counties in the whole state that controls everything. Where's the representation on that? They pass laws, codes, regulations, taxes, licenses, so on and so forth. They bleed us to death until we have nothing. And we can't afford anything. They take our land, our job, our economy, the resources, and the children. One step at a time. One step at a time, just like, you know how you cook a frog. You put them in a pot of water and you slowly turn the heat up. That's what they're doing to us. We're the frogs. And I think it's time we jumped out of the pot. I don't know about you. That's where I'm at. That's why I'm here. That's why I have spent so much time with Milt back here, with Ron Gibson, with Dave, with Tad, with Chris, and everybody else. Because we are solution-based. There is a solution. But you have to care. I can't come in here and do it. This is your home. I'm trying to do my own county, but I can show you how to do it. I don't want to be an alarmist, but we have to look at the reality of what's happening here in Oregon. This is our state. This is where we live. This is our home, and we are losing it. One step at a time. We have to take the blinders off. How many people have teenagers? A few here. You need to get them involved. You need to bring them to here. You need to teach them. Get them to understand, because they are the next generation. And if they don't understand what's going to happen after we're gone. Our children are the future. But if we don't do something to give them a future, they won't have one. We're the ones that have to give it to them. We have to get them involved, get them woken up, and it's not going to be easy. I know teenagers. Sometimes they'll do it kicking and scratching, but they will come around once they start understanding. They're the ones that we need to get involved, not just us. The point is, what I'm trying to say here, I've given you things that you already know. What's going on? There is a solution. There is an actual way of taking back our county. We can do something. We can do something that will give us and our children a future now and generations to come. But if we do nothing, we lose everything. Our grandfathers did nothing. Their fathers did nothing. They were programmed. We are awake. You're here. You are here. Everybody is here because you are awake. Do you know that the independence of America happened with only 3% of the population? That is where the 3%ers get their name. 3% of the population. Doesn't take a lot, but it takes dedication. It does take time. Obama has recently signed an executive order legalizing BLM tyranny. They're using the Antiquity Act to come in and take 425,000 acres from Malheur County. You already know what happened in Harney. They got so pissed off that they murdered Lavoie, and they wanted to murder everybody else in that truck. There's no question in my mind. That was a set-up assassination. The federal government could come into your county and just take the lands that they want. I don't think so. The government can walk in and take your kids whenever they like. I don't think anybody wants that to happen. But how do you fight? How do you fight it? That's the question. There is a way. Harney didn't think it could happen. Harney County. They were a nice, happy community until the Hammonds were suddenly thrown into jail. For what? Burning, doing a backburn to protect property? And that wasn't enough. Double jeopardy where they were thrown in a second time. They didn't think it could happen there. Do you think it could happen here? Darn tootin'. Darn tootin'. I love that word, darn tootin'. That's a great word. Now Malheur County is facing the loss of millions of acres to the BLM. They never thought it would happen there. So what? Anybody that doesn't think it's not going to happen here, you're going to have a rude awakening. The government will take everything and leave you and your family with absolutely nothing. They will crush this county. They are crushing Harney County, and they are crushing every county in the West. Ever hear of Agenda 21? This is part of it. I had a document when I got raided back in the 90s, and they took all my computers and all my information. I got the computers back, but they all had blown out hard drives, so I lost all of my information. I had a copy of a 1961 CIA report that was given to me. I used to be in top secret communications, by the way, in the military, Air Force. And in this document, it outlined exactly the process to move everybody into the cities and then start getting rid of them. Yes, that's Agenda 21, which was put down in writing back in the 80s in Rio de Janeiro. And now, the new version, continuation, is Agenda 2030. That's when they want it completed. With all the major resources and minerals for the elite, like the Clintons, to take for themselves. Everything seems to be rigged against us. Decisions are being made without your consent and without true representation. Where's the we, the people part of the Constitution being actualized? It's not there. The reason is because it's a corporation. If the community doesn't come together, it will be overrun by these corporations taking control of all the resources. Uranium One, for example. Aegis for another. All these big corporations coming in, pushing everybody out, putting you out on the street so that they can dig, and they don't care about you. All they care about is the money they make. Is this fear-mongering? Am I fear-mongering? Or is this telling the truth? Pretty much what you already know, though. I don't think I'm telling anybody anything new. Not here. Because you've lived it. You're here. You have lived it. What do you see? This is your home. This is your county. This is where your kids are being raised. And that means something. So what do we have? A democracy or a republic?
Autocracy.
The only way you can have a democracy is if you have a corporation. A corporation is a democracy. It's control of the majority, whereas the minority, us, have little to no representation. That's what happens here when the two counties up in northwest Oregon controls the whole state. That's a democracy. There's no representation. In a republic, you have representation. It's totally different. In a democracy, it's like two wolves and a lamb deciding who's going to have what for dinner. So the two wolves will vote for the lamb to be dinner. In a republic, the lamb has a machine gun and says, "I don't think so." And it's the lamb's right to say no, because that is representative. America is not a democracy. It is a constitutional republic. We have a constitution, an original constitution. And it's important that we understand the difference. It's not the Constitution that they throw at us. The Constitution they throw at us is a corporate constitution. In 1861, when the South pulled out, seceded from the Union, that was when the original Constitution stopped operating. In 1862, I believe, and I may be off a little bit, a new corporation was created. It was a corporation, color of law, originally incorporated in Delaware, and that is what we see today. It's a corporation. My understanding is Oregon incorporated in 1954.
53.
Pardon?
The act was done in 52. It actually went into effect in 53.
Okay,
And
thank
the
you.
federal one was done, went into effect in 1871 by an act of Congress, which was unconstitutional, establishing the corporation governmental structure for the District of Columbia.
That's right. 1871 was when Washington, D.C. was created.
Right.
You are correct. So where is the state republic? Where is our republic? We don't see it. They stole our country, and now we want it back. And we can get it back. So you've noticed there's something wrong. The government is sitting up on top, and the people are on the bottom. This is a copy of the Dun & Bradstreet numbers for the U.S. Department of Defense, Treasury, Justice, Department of State. They're all listed. Corporations. I even found the Justice Department for Josephine County is a corporation. I refer you to the United States Code, Title 28, 3002, sub 15, A, B, and C. It states specifically in their own document, United States is a federal corporation. How blatant can you get? They tell you. This is how it's supposed to be. This is land jurisdiction, where the people are in control and the government serves the people. This is what our forefathers gave us. This is what we had in Oregon. We didn't have this Government tells us what to do. We didn't have commissioners telling us what to do. We told the commissioners. We told the government. So what's the catch? If you want to take control of the government, then you have to become involved. You have to become active. To become a constitutional county, and this is where we want to take you, a constitutional county, operating as a republic form of government, places that the people are in control, reestablishing constitutional common law, where you can protect against international trade agreements, brings back your economy based upon your natural resources, and creates your own county charter that is the rule of the people, not the rule of Salem. So imagine, what would it like to be if people were in control? We have. This is how it would work. In essence, this is how it used to work. People, representatives, anybody from all over the county comes together in assembly. We call it assembly rather than committee of safety because assembly is the constitutional name. It's protected. The committee of safety is not protected. That's why we're going with assembly. The people come together under formal conditions. They elect a person in charge. Okay, I just went brain dead. They operate very specifically within the realm of Robert's rules of Robert's. Thank you. Robert's rules, and it's recorded and voted on and made public record. That public record is then given to the commissioners to fulfill the will of the people. The commissioners do not tell what the people will do. The people tell the commissioners what they will do. It puts the control back into the people. And if you don't show up, then you don't have a voice. Your choice. It's responsibility. And if you don't want the assembly to be taken over by unwanted groups, then you need to show up. You have the control. Then we have the Committee of Correspondence. I don't know if you've heard about this. This is basically somewhat like a communication channel to communicate with everybody what is actually going on. The truth. The truth. Something you don't get from your paper. You might get it from broadcasters like Leo, I believe. He's very good. Trying to. But this is an actual committee of correspondence that brings the people together through correspondence. Informs you, lets you know what's going on. And then the common law grand jury. That's what these books over here are about. I highly suggest you get one and read it. This is pretty much the Bible on grand juries, understanding it. The grand jury is essentially the people's control of the government. The grand jury has the ability to be separated from the, statutory, from the administrative, from the executive. They do not control it. The grand jury can, and does in the past, give presentments. This was taken away in the statutory. In fact, the statutory Admiralty system has totally taken away all the power of the grand jury in their versions after they have codified it and turned it into a statutory entity. they've taken away the right of the people to do anything through the grand jury. You have no access to the grand jury. That is one of the key aspects of the grand jury. That was given to us in the Magna Carta, Section 68, I believe. We need to get control back. And that is one of the major tools our forefathers gave us to do it. In the statutory, down at the courthouse here, the judge is pretty much a dictator, and the people are dictated to. The judge sits there in judgment. He is the captain of the ship, and he will do anything in order to get what he wants. The bar members, their first covenant is to the bar, all lawyers and judges. The second is to the court. And somewhere down below, the client. I don't know how many people have gone into an administrative pay off a ticket, but you've seen it there. In Josephine County, this just happened. Judge overturns the local ban on GMO crops. The people voted unanimously, overwhelmingly. They did not want GMO crops in our county. This judge overturned it. Where's the people's control?
Don't buy it. Don't buy the food.
Well, the thing is, we don't want cross-contamination. They're growing massive amounts of GMO crops in our county. And the cross-contamination is just killing the organic crops.
American food is banned in 30 other countries.
That is correct. That is correct. GMO is banned in a multitude of other countries. In fact, I believe Russia just finally put out no more, period. India doesn't want it. China doesn't want it. Where's the source? America. Where in the Constitution is the delegation of authority from the people giving the commissioners exclusive land use authority? I'm missing a slide. The slide that was missing is the same judge later came and said that the people of the county cannot and have no right to decide land issues.
Why?
That's crazy.
Why?
He said that's the job of the commissioners, not the people. That's the statutory. They are the dictators. The government dictates. In a common law court, land jurisdiction, you, the people, are in control. The judge, like myself, I do not judge anything. I do not give the grand jury instructions. My role as a judge, a land jurisdiction judge, is to keep the peace in the court, to make sure the Constitution is followed and peace is kept. That the grand jury gets whatever they want. If they want to know what size of shoe the janitor wears, that is their prerogative. No information, even hearsay, is withheld from them. They have the control. They make the judgment, and the judge signs it off. That's the difference. So the judge is going from dictator to referee to make sure fairness and peace is kept. That is what it used to be. So what will it take to get back to this? Now here's the part that you're probably really interested in. First of all, protection. You don't want to get into this unprotected. We'll get slammed. Look what happened to the Bundys. They went in unprotected. They're in jail. So whoever wants to do this needs to be protected first. Education. The biggest problem is people do not understand. We need to educate. We have a lot of great people that can do seminars, that can do education. I will come up here every other week if I need to educate. Ron Gibson, who is another outstanding constitutionalist. In fact, he's formally trained. He studied Constitution under some of the best lawyers, instructors in the world, but he rejected the bar. In fact, he despised the bar. And he represents the mining interests of 3 states. And he rarely loses. They ripped him off. They took him to his cleaners. And that is what got him motivated. So he is up on his game. He will come out and help in the protection and the education. Then you have organization and planning. We have to take a page right out of the liberals' battle manual. They are outstanding. I don't like liberals. But they're outstanding in organization. We need to learn to do that because we need the numbers behind that. We cannot just go out and say, rah, 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 follow us. We have to motivate our neighbors. We have to bring in, we have to be proselyting. We have to become active. Talk to our neighbors, talk to people. We have to be dedicated. And then there's timing and action. We organize, I'm professionally a project manager before I became a judge. We have to set up a plan, put the plan in writing, and then follow it through. If you have a good plan, you avoid risk, you avoid dangers, you avoid problems, because you look at all the aspects before you take action. You don't go blindly running out thinking you're going to save the world without an action plan. Proper planning avoids disaster, and I have seen a lot of disasters in project management because of poor planning. And it doesn't take much. It takes dedication and time. It takes willpower. And you guys have the ability to do it. You have great people here, great minds here. You have neighbor counties willing to help. We have the same thing going over in Grant County. You're not alone. The question is, who's going to be first to unincorporate? So what happens when you unincorporate? You cut off the ties, the purse strings. You cut off the corporation that controls you. Why do we need protection? From retaliatory actions by the corporate government. Do you think they're going to let us take back our rights easily? Nah, not on your life. But if you're protected, you protect your land, you protect your person, you protect yourself from them, and that is what we're coming up with as part of the plan. To how to protect your ranch, your home, your cattle, grazing, so on and so forth. to avoid what happened to the Hammonds, to avoid what happened to the Bundys. We don't want that to happen. It's bad publicity. But you need to know your Constitution, know what your rights are. Do you really know what your rights are?
So from what you're saying, what it takes for this to happen, probably one of the key elements, is that you need to have a constitutional sheriff. Burns did not have a constitutional sheriff.
That is true.
That's correct.
That is true.
So can this all be accomplished without a constitutional sheriff in the
No.
Yes, it can. Yes, it can.
That's good news for me.
That is the good news.
That is good.
Because-
Could you repeat questions for the video?
Oh, sure, sure.
So that we all hear.
Okay, I'm sorry. Could you repeat your question so I can repeat it? Can this be done without a constitutional sheriff?
Correct.
And the answer is yes. It can be.
Clarify.
Because it is the people who make the decisions, not the sheriff. The sheriff, if the sheriff is constitutional, that's even better. That's an ace in your pocket. But yes, it can be done. And it can be done by the county voting as one to unincorporate. Has nothing to do with the sheriff. And when it unincorporates, then you have a plan in place. What takes over? That is where the planning is so important. Now that sheriff has a choice. He can either become constitutional or he leaves.
You can bring it before the jury.
Pardon?
You can bring it before the jury, can't you?
Can you bring them before the jury? Once the jury is set up, yes. And that's part of the planning. The jury is part of the planning. But you cannot have a grand jury if you're still 14th Amendment citizens. You have to cut a bunch of those contracts and ties. That is part of your protection. And yes, you can operate quite easily without those contracts. I do. I'm probably one of the more extreme sovereigns there is. I don't have a government ID, and I operate quite nicely. It's not always easy though. And there are other things that we're working on. One suggestion by Milt in the back here was to get a possibly, I'm going to put him on the spot here. What are friends for? And that is get a stamp an ID card with signature or autograph. Does not convey jurisdiction. Actually, I said that wrong.
Yes. Signature for identification purposes only.
Signature for identification purposes only.
And
Thank you.
does not constitute contractual endorsement hereof.
And does not
constitute
contractual
endorsement hereof.
endorsement hereof.
I've used that successfully, and I have that over my so-called, that's how I got out of the driver's license back in the 80s. And I've used it successfully in other cases, and for an estate case that a guy was trying to be sovereign, didn't want to pay the taxes, and I said, and he didn't know how to contract in. He stamped that over everything, and boy, I mean, they left him alone in that estate case. He got everything he wanted, and never paid any taxes on it. It went because he didn't contract with them. He didn't contract with the agencies and corporations.
You have to get out of the contracts, a lot of them. And you can still operate. That's not a problem. You still live. So part of it is understanding and knowing what your rights are. Where do your rights come from? They don't come from the Constitution. You are born You need to understand your political power, your political status. Because if you don't declare your political status, they will assume, under presumption, that you are a 14th Amendment citizen, which is a corporate citizen. The 14th Amendment citizenship is a citizenship under the power of the federal government corporation. It makes you a corporate entity.
There's one thing that you need to clarify, and that's the term of passive agreement. If you don't object, then that passive agreement, that's what they use.
Yes. And what he is bringing out is the concept of passive agreement. If you do not object, then
That's what the stamp does.
that's what the stamp is for. Correct. Exactly what Mill says.
Anything you sign, you don't know what you're signing. If the presumption is it's a contract and an agreement. But you don't know necessarily what all the laws are. There could be 100 law books behind that signature. So there's no full disclosure. Bang, before I sign it, I'm gonna stamp it, and then I'm gonna sign it.
See, a lot of these contracts are by fraud, but we accept them anyway. There's not full disclosure. You were not it was not disclosed to you that you don't have to have a license. If you sit down and study the code, you will see that a private individual in non-commerce is not required to have a license. But they lied to us. They want to put us all in commerce.
I have a question, sir. You're talking about license, but I'm going to ask on ID showing you cannot board a plane without an ID. Picture ID.
Say that again?
You cannot board a plane without a government picture ID.
That's correct.
And that is correct. And if we use Milt's stamp, we can get a government picture ID without the contract. Now there are other ways also. A national, American national passport, if you know how to get that. They'll accept those. Now, you have to understand your political status. You need to organize and work together, talk, help others to learn, ask questions, get answers. Keep it simple. Don't make it overly complicated. But you have to talk to each other. Nobody's going to be 100% right. I'm getting corrected here. And I appreciate it. Nobody is 100% right. That's why we are a community. That's why we come together. You plan the process to achieve your goal. You put it down on paper. That is a very basic thing. Identify the risk and what actions will be taken if something happens. Risk mitigation. In any project, risk mitigation is a major part. That's why you protect yourself. That's why I am so very adamant on protecting. Make a timeline for the progress. Who, what, when, where, and how. Who's going to do what? What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? Where? And how? This is organization. It doesn't happen unless somebody comes together and does it. It's not going to happen by itself. It's not going to happen by just throwing an ordinance up and trying to get people to vote. It has to be an actual grassroots, organized effort. As long as the county is incorporated, it will remain under the control of the corporate state. That is why you can't get anything done. Because you're still operating under the corporation.
Can you give some examples of what the state or the community would lose by not being incorporated?
What kind of, an example of what the community would lose by
Making the change.
making the change? Very good question. Subsidies. You'd lose your subsidies. For one, you would lose state law enforcement patrolling your roads. You would lose,
You wouldn't lose the state, they'd still maintain the state highways because those are.
well,
roads.
they would still maintain the roads, but the law enforcement.
No, they'll have the law enforcement on the federal, on the state, interstate highway.
On the federal, yeah,
Interstate
or the
highways.
states, yes.
But they won't have any more on the county support.
That's right. Did you hear that? So there will be some losses, but what happens in return? You have what's called a CAFR, Comprehensive Annual Report, where your county commissioners hide hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Usually millions, multi-millions. The state of Oregon has over $7 billion stashed away. I have a YouTube from CNN where I forgot which senator was talking to the Senate. Stated right out. Why are you wanting to increase taxes when we have $7 billion in reserve? That's the CAFR. See, what they do is they have a budget and then they have the annual financial report. Two totally different things.
2 sets of books.
2 sets of books, definitely. And what's and a good example is household budget. You have a household budget of, let's say, $10,000. Okay, that's a small budget. But you have an income of $200,000. The budget does not reflect the overall income. And then they come out and says, well, we don't have enough money for the budget. Well, then you're going to have to go out and get a job and work more to increase the money for the budget, rather than taking the money from the income. And that's what the commissioners are doing. That is where your money is going. And then your money is being sent up to Oregon State, Salem. And then they turn around and send you back your own money and say, here's we have all these attachments to the money that you sent to us that we're returning to you. Yes, you lose all those attachments. All your money stays here. They don't get it anymore.
Which is way more than what you're
And
getting
we're
back.
getting back.
Which is way more than what you're getting back, exactly. And then you combine the resources. The BLM goes away, Forestry Service goes away. They have no jurisdiction if it's unincorporated. You start building a new economy, a real one, the one you used to have. You used to have a good economy. You had a forest industry, you had a mining industry. That all comes back. You don't need the state. You don't need the federal government's dollars. Because their dollars has strings and attachments. That's how they control us.
Who controls that land then when it's taken from the BLM and the Forest Service?
The county does.
County.
It's public land. It's county land.
Then who controls them?
You do, the people, the assembly. It comes back to the control of the people. Our founding fathers found out that the people do a much better job than some government. The government has a very limited use. I'm not anti-government. Government is very useful in what it's supposed to do. Serve the people. To serve your rights, to protect your rights. Not take them away. To protect the land. Not strip it.
Yeah, but most counties live by their natural resources.
Huge
BLM and the Forest Service restrict that. They're starving us to death.
That's exactly what is happening everywhere. BLM and Forest Service is stripping your rights and starving the counties.
Part of that's because of your super organized liberals that keep everything tied up in litigation. And we need to do that in reverse.
That's right.
The
That's why you
DEQ,
need
we
to
can
take...
overwhelm the DEQ in a minute. Those people are so inept. And I can overwhelm them just with my questions, and my daughters as well. And if 100 of us got onto them, they'd have to shut down.
Just kick them out.
Well, I'd rather do that.
Unincorporate and kick them out.
I'd rather do that.
Don't confront them. Why confront them? They're unconstitutional. They have no jurisdiction. They don't have title to the land. They have no
That
jurisdiction.
would be smart.
Oh, it's very easy. If you can get, once you unincorporate and you get a constitutional judge, no, constitutional sheriff, the sheriff just confiscates all the forests.
Yeah, but theoretically, this represents all the people that are interested in that out of a population of what in this county? How do we, it isn't just incorporate. How do we get to it? How do we
I'm sorry.
How do we educate the rest of the county? This is all we have out of Baker County.
That's right.
that
And
seem
that's
to be
what-
interested.
And his question is, how do we educate the people? That means you have to take the video. The video is one. You have to take a page out of the activist rulebook. Learn what they're doing. Learn how they do it and use it yourself. Use their techniques.
Question. So if these entitlements are no longer coming in to people within the county, would that mean that people who are on food stamps, welfare, disabilities, would all of those be gone?
I do not believe so.
Because, because if that were the case, then nothing's gonna happen.
Right, I do not believe that will go away because those people are still connected and individually, and they have a contract.
So, I mean, that's key. I mean.
Yes, it is. It is.
All those programs are dependent on the corporate United States.
That's right.
And then if the corporate United States goes away, so do all those programs.
That's right, and it is going away. We are headed for a financial meltdown.
Security and everything else.
You are exactly right.
Talk the populace into that.
Well, we are losing, the government's going to be, has already gone bankrupt. That's already been established and publicized.
Probably not. With Baker County, just kind of like the rest of the counties around us, we're getting overrun with liberals and rhinos.
And that comment was, we're getting overrun by liberals.
Our agendas through.
That's right. And that's why you have a better chance here of getting it accomplished.
Are there any counties that we can refer to that have successfully unincorporated at this time that we can use as an example, who are getting that money back, funding their own schools, educating their children the way that they want to?
No.
So somebody's got to do it first.
Somebody's going to be first. The question was, has anybody done this yet? And the answer is no. This is how it used to be. It's historical records. This is how it used to be. The question is, who's going to take up the reins and do it and bring it back? What I expect, what will happen is once, especially over here in this area, once one county does it, other counties are going to say, hey, look, they're getting control back of their county and their lives, their liberties, their rights. We want to do it too. Go ahead, Jay.
A couple slides ago, under what will it take, the first one was protection. Talk to us about that.
Protection comes from a multitude of different things. We're still working on it. One is an affidavit of political status. Another is a termination of election with the IRS, terminating your status with the IRS. And that's in their own book, the termination. And there's a few others similar to that. I don't have them off the top of my head.
But what you are talking about is an administrative style of protection.
Yes, administrative. Because they can't come after you administratively if you are protected. Well, they can. They have the guns. But it'll be very, very difficult for them to come after anybody. If they're going to come after anybody, it's going to be the leaders. Even myself.
Yeah. For under that protection, what we're doing with the mining district historically had thrown out anybody that was a member of the bar from use in the mining district over mining issues. And we're looking at that protection of what they did at that time. And what came out of that is the fact that we have Article 3 courts and administrative courts. And if you have your paperwork for your land and title for your Article 3 courts, you can eliminate the administrative courts, and that gives you the protection on your land. If you don't have that clear title back to the patent, the land patent for your ranches and the surface, and those paperwork in order, that's the protection that we're talking about. You have to know what those are, and we can't get that from the bar because they're not going to tell us that. They're not going to allow us to protect ourselves because they're feeding off of our lack of knowledge and our lack of that paperwork protection. So we have to know how to put that stuff in order and present that properly to the court. And we're doing that Monday, I hope, for mining claimants for the filings, for the deadline filings that we're having. But that is administrative. The administrative court does not have jurisdiction against a valid mining claim where the miner is working on it year after year after year. Even by administrative, they cannot take it for administrative fiat. Under Article 3 courts, they have to show that it's an invalid claim or that the miner is occupying it in bad faith.
Why should that argument even be there? It seems to me that once jurisdiction has been established, it goes away, because if you're operating not under the corporation, they shouldn't even recognize it. So how do you even come to a common ground to deal with them in court unless you're part of that corporate status?
You're showing them you're not part of that corporate status. Okay. That's the protection. You have to show what the law was before the incorporation. See, the mining law is 1866. Right. The incorporation of the city is 1871. Those dates, you have to keep those in your mind of what that distinction is. What law you're operating under, the grant. The incorporation cannot eliminate any grant. Our roads that the county commissioners are using to get our roads back. We've done that under that process. So
then you're not going to their court for any resolution at all. You're simply going there to let them know they can't recognize you.
Right. Exactly. You got to show up. If you do not show up, then you lose by acquiescence. In other words, you agree with whatever comes out. So you have to object. You have to go in and object. And my question is, at what point does that become harassment? Because we keep going into court and going back to court and going back to court. We win case after case after case. We're starting to win cases already, but they're still dragging us into court for the same damn case, just in a different spot, in a different state, in a different county. You know, at what point does that become harassment? That's, we're looking at moving to the next part, which is where we got into the argument about a sheriff. If you have a sheriff that is not a constitutional sheriff, you've got to get in the county a constitutional sheriff, because the sheriff, under the original Constitution, that's the pre-1871, the county sheriff was the ultimate law authority, and he still is today, even under the corporate structure. Ironically, he is still, that's why they incorporated the sheriff's office, not the sheriff. There's a subtlety there.
They always find a sneaky way of doing it.
It's a sneaky stuff, and we're finding those.
Now the question here is, how does this apply to you? This is all mining law stuff. How it applies to you as protection is that you, on your property, you get your own alloidal title, a land patent. That is defensible. No land patent properly defended has ever failed, even up to the Supreme Court. In fact, the Supreme Court has hundreds, if not thousands, of land patent cases. Every one succeeded. That is part of the protection, an additional part of the protection.
Would you explain the cordial title to the people? I don't know what it is.
Okay. Would you like to? Land patent. Land patent is.
That's Ron's.
That's Ron's.
That's Ron's. I don't.
Yeah, that is Ron's.
I do the research for him, but he's the one that talks on that.
Ron Gibson is the expert on that. Land patent is original ownership or title. It's
fee. I can.
It's fee simple.
Yeah.
In which basically you have absolute total ownership. The government cannot attach to your land. Corporations cannot attach to your land. You own it free and clear. Totally.
What about mineral rights?
Well, yeah. A land patent, whether it's a mineral patent or a homestead or a range patent, there are several different ones. They are an actual contract from the federal government to the private party that applied for that patent. You get a fee title. In that fee title it says grant. So that land patent is a transference of title and jurisdiction. And that's a key word. Jurisdiction for the development and the utilization of that land for beneficial purposes. That means economic productivity off of that land is what's being transferred. So you get all of that. That means they don't interfere with it. In mining law, in the mining patents, every one of the mining patents has an Article 3 in it, in every one of those patents, where it states that the state can only make rules and regulations to benefit the production of the mining claim, of that patent that is hereby granted, of the lands hereby granted. So they cannot make any rules that would restrict the economic benefication, or the economic utilization of that, of restricting those minerals, which is what they're doing, and that's what we're proposing. And I'm getting ahead of myself because I was supposed to speak later.
How it applies to.
So that application applies to the fee, and it's called fee simple. That's the patent. The patent is the fee simple. It means you have jurisdiction over that land, not the state, not the federal government, and all restrictions on it. If there's an easement for a road, it will be in that land patent. If there's an easement on water, it will say that you have the right for that land to all the water that is not previously appropriated.
Who issues the patent?
The federal government.
Corporation?
Yes.
No,
The original
no.
federal.
The original patents, all of our mining patents and the original patents prior to 1871 were by the land office, signed by the president, not by the corporation.
And that's how it protects you individually on your property.
So did the Bundys, did they make a colossal mistake in defending themselves against the federal government?
No. No. Who said that?
I did.
Yes.
The question was, did the Bundys make a mistake on defending themselves?
No. Not unless you read the Federalist Papers 84 and the Bill of Rights. That's
Why
your
are they being prosecuted?
Well,
Back to a court.
Is a kangaroo court.
under the fact
to do
of,
with constitutional law.
They broke no laws. You look at the indictment and it's a farce, it's a joke. But that's, we're getting off track here.
Good point, though.
So what do you prefer, to live in fear of the BLM, Forestry Service, corporate government, to watch as your economy is shredded, to lose all of your county resources to outsiders, to live under the yoke of an unjust judicial system, to lose your sons and daughters because they cannot survive here at home, to be slaves by consent, fear, and ignorance? This is an odyssey. This is something that's going to take work. And you, it's up to you. This is your home. How much is it worth to you? What is your home worth to you? It takes only a few to start out. Go out and proselyte. Proselyte. Talk to people. Talk to your neighbors. Have block parties. Bring people together. It's a community. Meet people from other cities. Bring them in. Other counties.
In your county, meeting, folks coming in, giving what they're visiting with their neighbors and different folks, is the number one concern is those government subsidies and how, that's part of the planning. You have to get the education out to them. That's probably going to be about the toughest go there is.
Thank you.
Until you show where they can gain and not just stay at the status quo, the masses are not going to go for it. Wish they would.
The comment being made here is subsidies isn't going to be the number one issue in
It will.
bringing people over. And there's no question, you are correct. And we have enough people here to put our minds together and figure out probably several solutions or approaches.
About the only way you're going to do it is when that county gets control, you show each and every one of those individuals, from the welfare recipient right down to the rancher that's receiving a subsidy, that they're going to get more. Okay, and that's it. That's the bottom line. That's the way the liberals do it.
That is true. You have to show them that they're getting more, but you can also show them that they're about to lose everything.
right.
Yeah, it's actually simpler than that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, again, it's simpler than that. I'm actually working on a presentation with the Economic Development Council, looking at the economics to address what you're asking. Think of it this way. There's producers and consumers. All of the money that's coming back from the government is going to consumption. Most of the people in this room are producers, either cattle, timber, mining, and then there's a fourth category that's called industrial, producers. The government is the intermediary between the producer and the consumer. Right now, and look at it historically, we had an agrarian population with agriculture where the bulk of the population was pre-World War II. Now, the producers are the 1% nationally in population. All right? The consumers are now dictating to the producers. So you have to show the consumers where that money is coming from. And it's not coming from Washington. It's coming from the producers, from us, at the county level. And that's what we're presenting to the county, is that the county is sending all of this product and all of the resources to the metropolitan areas, and we're not getting anything back. So when they kill the county, what money are they going to give back to their people? What money is going to be there to give to the Social Security, to the welfare, to the rest of it? Now that Ponzi scheme is already collapsing right now. That's why they're imprinting the money. That's why they're talking about helicopter money. Because they're running out of money. They're running out of wealth creation because they have stifled the wealth creation of the West. That's what we have to show, and that's what we have to educate. And that's one of the problems, what we're trying to produce. So give me a couple of months and we'll have that on our website.
How do we get to your website, sir?
Jefferson Mining District is the website. Just Google up Jefferson Mining District, or see, I think I got Ron's card, as a matter of fact.
Could you explain why the mining districts were formed in the first place, just real quick?
Yeah, the mining districts actually came out of the, as a result of the original gold rush. Gold was discovered here in Oregon in 1846 and 1847, depending upon who you talk to. And then it was the big discovery was in California in 1847, which led to the 1849ers, or what they call the 49ers. At that time, Congress, which had ownership of the lands out here in the West, did not have a jurisdiction or a lawful way of developing of the minerals. They had a leasing system that they tried to use for lead back east that they abandoned, and so they didn't have it. As a result, the miners in California and in Oregon, they formed districts of themselves where they formed their own jurisdiction of a mining district. Baker County had one of the earliest mining districts. It's called the Auburn Mining District. You can look it up. It's in the records here in the courthouse. The Auburn Mining District formed a watershed and formed a corporation for that watershed called the Auburn Watershed, which now is your Baker City watershed. So the mining districts were formulated, and they existed to keep the peace and tranquility between miners, to establish the working of the ground so they can take the mine out of the ground. And they were very peaceful, and it worked very well. Lindley is the law book that was written in the 1903 was the first one, and 1914 was the third printing of that. And he talks about the mining districts and the formation of that. In 1866, the Congress made the mining law and recognized the mining districts and recognized the rights that were established by the mining districts as the law of the land, and that's in the quotes. It's the law of the land for the utilization and disposition of the ores. And it was designed to keep the peace and tranquility for the economic benefit. It also resolved the water issues of the West because of the lack of water, particularly in Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, as well as here in Oregon. Some of the first adjudicated water rights in Oregon is right here in halfway in Richland. So Baker County has been at the forefront of all of this law, which I've, with Left Lane's help, have been doing all the research for documenting all of it. So that's how the mining districts were formed, because there was no lawful jurisdiction at that time in the state of Oregon and California to deal with those issues that were handed. So the miners formed their own governance body, recognized by Congress. It's been carried through to today. We're actually using that fact to set up the Jefferson Mining District as a governance of the miners for mineral production and for making the usage of that mineral production. So we're looking at, again, setting up our own court, because the mining districts had their own courts. In the Auburn Mining District, you will find that the first hangings in Baker County was done by the mining court of the mining district here in Baker County. Historical facts. So they carry the equivalent of jurisdiction of the state. So is that?
I think what the question was why they stopped.
Why they stop?
Well,
but you know, this is great information, because what it does is it tells you an assembly is already actually working. It's in the mining district. They have an actually working assembly.
Right.
That's what the county needs to do, to have organized and set up an assembly. It starts 6 people, 12 people, more and more. Jake?
On that very point, I have a question for Chris. Was there any legal blowback on the members of the safety committee that was set up out there in Burns that night, back in December?
Any blowback?
I mean, did anyone get any, did they try to press charges?
Oh, did they come, as being part of the committee of safety, did they try to come after you or members of the committee of safety?
Not yet.
They denied rights.
What do you mean not yet? Is there a...
Well, we're not done.
Okay, I was just curious.
No, they haven't tried to press charges on us. They've watched us and followed us around, and
Basic harassment.
oh yeah, they play with our phones, they play with our computers, they play with my mail, you know.
So is that something to be expected if this type of assembly were set up here in Baker?
I wouldn't doubt it.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
They're going to do whatever they can to make you shut up. They're going to do whatever they can to keep you from speaking out and researching and finding out what rights you have. Because as long as you're a sheeple, you can be herded around.
Well, they're afraid of losing their paycheck.
That's right.
Oh, yes,
That's the biggest thing. If they weren't getting their paycheck from there, they'd leave too.
That's right.
I got one other question. As a body, what does everybody, and this is kind of off the subject, on that ambush that they killed the boy up there, if he'd have been black and that would have made the news, do you think that would have been a different outcome?
Oh, yeah.
That would be total speculation. I could not say. I have my own personal opinion.
It had still been called a false flag or a hoax from a distance. Nobody would have wanted to take it seriously because our media lies to us constantly.
Still would have been a murder.
Either way, it would have been assassination and murder.
That's true.
Okay, speaking of the ambush, there's one question I have to ask. And it's my understanding that when the FBI and the state police set up the roadblock, there was actually no warrant for any arrest at that point. It was after the fact. Is that?
That is my understanding. Laz?
That's true.
Repeat the question, please.
At the time of the ambush, there was no warrant for their arrest or any action. Is that correct?
That's correct, but there was communication between Kate Brown, the FBI, Jeremy Comey, and Loretta Lynch prior to the, before and after, prior to the assassination.
But isn't it illegal to perform that type of an operation if there's not a warrant?
Yes.
That is correct.
That is correct, and that is why they're doing everything they can to hide it
Well,
and
I had a
whitewash it.
conversation with Cliff Bentz just within the last couple of weeks. We've had several conversations. And I asked him, or I told him that that was my understanding there was not a warrant at the time of the ambush. And he told me that as a state legislator, it's their job to make laws, not enforce the laws. And I pointed out to him that if he doesn't follow up and investigate this illegal activity by law enforcement, then who's going to do it? And basically, he was telling me that he's not doing anything because the grand jury is in effect right now, and they're awaiting their decision. And I pointed out to him again, this has nothing to do with the warrant. That's one thing that you could be pursuing. And I don't know where that's going, probably nowhere.
Well, the statutory grand jury has no authority to do a presentment anymore since the I believe 1947 Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure came out, where they basically neutered the statutory grand jury. That is why in the I believe it was the Williams versus the USA, where Scalia, Antonio Scalia, I believe, Scalia came out with points on what the grand jury actually was. It was independent. And he specified this. The grand jury is an independent entity of the constitutional government. It is an entity of the people, not of the judicial system, the executive, or any other.
And you know what happened to Scalia.
Yes. Yes, we know what happened to the only superior Supreme Court justice whose death was never investigated, even.
He was cremated, right?
Yes, he was cremated, and they did not want to show the evidence of what actually happened.
But there's a Supreme Court ruling with regards to Scalia and the Constitution. That's South Carolina versus U.S. 199, where it basically states the Constitution is a written instrument, and such that meaning does not alter that which meant when it was adopted. So basically, the Constitution is the Constitution. So with respect to your question on Cliff Bentz, there's two parts to that I'm going to cover as soon as Judge Grassie's done. Judge Darby. Darby.
Oh, excuse me.
Oh. I'll take it back.
Oh.
I'll take it back because the only reason why I said that because Grassie was part of the assassination with Floyd Britton.
Well, you're not getting a Christmas card.
But on that, I'll ask you two questions with regards. What does his brother Andy Bentz had to lose when the Patriots were there? That's the first question. And number two, knowing that Cliff Bentz graduated from Lewis and Clark Law School, is he operating under Admiralty law or is he operating under common law?
Well, let me ask you this. Now, when you were here last time, I shared those videos with Representative Bentz.
Good.
He got back to me and he denied everything. I had communications with Tammy. You know who Tammy is?
Yeah.
Okay. And I passed that on to her, along with communications with Representative Bentz. And I suggested to her at that time, because Representative Bentz said in an email, which I passed on to Tammy, what she was communicating with you, that he was open to talk with anybody at any time about these accusations. And I suggested to Tammy that either she or someone within your group take this opportunity and contact Representative Bentz. I mean, it was a golden opportunity. Did you ever contact him?
Tammy did send emails. Tammy will provide those emails if you want them. There was communication. We're waiting for Cliff Bentz to give me an invitation in an open forum so we can debate on this in front of the Oregonians. Okay. Anytime, anywhere he wants.
Send that to me, and I will work out on that from my. Okay.
I'll have Tammy send that for.
Okay, we're starting to get off track again a little bit.
We might not be off track, but we're on to something.
Yes, yes. And let me finish up here so we can take a quick 10-minute break because everybody's getting sore sitting, and then
Yes.
Milt will speak, and then Laz will tear everybody up. Okay.
We're gonna have a leg
And Chris,
stretch?
here, we're not going to forget Chris.
Are we stretching our legs?
And let me finish up.
Okay.
The alternative to doing nothing or accepting what's given to us is taking back your country, your county constitutionally, reviving your economy, taking back your minerals, taking back your resources, cast off the yoke of resource suppression, generate jobs and freedom. Who wants to be on unemployment when they can have a job?
A lot of it.
Okay. Well, you know what's going to happen? A lot of those people are going to go back to Multnomah County where they can get their free handouts. Because you want people here that are willing to work, and those that cannot can be helped.
All the subsidies are going to dry up anyways.
Yeah.
That's just the way it's going to be.
Those who deserve it will get help. Those who do not will get jobs. Or they'll go somewhere else. You can have courts that are truly honest and fair. Go ahead. You take care of county resources properly. When you have a burnout, you harvest it. You take care of it. You leave a legacy to your children and beyond. You put education back into schools. Can you imagine? Do you know the 8th grade education of our forefathers was higher than a college education today? 8th grade? That is beyond disgusting. So what happens? The 1800s was a huge time of advancements, industrial age. So what do we have today? The day of dumbing down age. What if we educated our children again the way they should? They could far outshine us if they're properly educated the way they used to be. I took the 8th grade final exam from I believe it was 1896. Showed it to all my college friends. Not one of them passed it.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking about people with master's degrees. 8th grade education.
None of that left.
That's sad.
PhD, push here, dummy.
There you go. Push here, dummy. Well, thank you. We will do everything we can. And I'm also speaking for Ron Gibson because he has already given his commitment to this.
So I got a question.
Ron is giving a seminar over in Cedar City right now. which is why he's not here. Otherwise, he would be here.
Yep.
We will do everything we can to assist and educate, to guide you, support you, and protect you. We have a great brain trust. We have a great researchers. We have the brain power to help to do this. But the boots on the ground, that's you. You have to do it. This is your home.
Will you come visit us in prison?
Well, the question is, will you come visit me?
Whoever gets there first.
There we go. But you have to set up. Nobody else can do it for you, because this is your home. How much is your home worth to you, to your children? Are you going to pass something on, or just say, well, we'll just see? I need to go watch TV. Click. Go brain dead. Maybe we should start turning it off, because the television is a major programming item, especially the children, the kids. Oh yeah, they say, well, it's just fiction, but the brain doesn't determine that. The brain, I have a background in psychology. That was one of my original majors. I got upset with the liberals in it. But the research has shown that if you watch a program like the crime programs all the time, what do you have? Crime, 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 all the programs. And they're saying the same message. The government can break down your door, the government can lie, the government can do whatever you, and this is what you're being programmed with. And it's going subconscious. It is going subconscious. So if you want to protect yourself and your family, turn that programming device off. Find out how to do things as a family. Boy, that'll tick off your teenage kids. Yes, sir.
You were speaking of programming. Fox has one by Bill O'Reilly. It's called Legend and Lies.
Bill O'Reilly, Legend and Lies.
Yeah, it's stories of our founding fathers.
Oh, okay.
And it's
Oh, well, that's very rare to have anything truthful.
Fox channel, so news channel, and it's on Sunday. So
Find out how much they gave up.
They gave up a lot. They gave up a lot. Everything. A lot of them gave up their lives. And all we ask is giving up some time and effort.
An interesting statistic is that I think then that what was it, 75% of the population in the colonial age thought they were all redneck rebels.
Yes. The majority of people saw them as, I guess they would be called domestic terrorists.
Yeah, a third of the country still wanted a king and queen.
That's right. So what I wanted to let you know is there is an actual process that can and will work. This is time tested because it was given to us by the founding fathers. It did work. That's why it will work again, because it's already been used and tried. It takes effort, it takes dedication, and all of us will be here to help you. I will come up out here as often as I need to help. My business card's over here. You're welcome to it. Call me. If you don't get in touch with me, leave a message. I don't return calls unless you leave a message. I get a lot of messages. But I want to...
LSMFT.
Mickey Mouse?
No, let's stand. My fanny's tired.
Oh, let's stand. Chris's fanny is tired, so let's take a break, stretch.